Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center here in New York City. As you know, here on the Pace Report, there's a continuum of musicians that I profile and interview that are carrying Black American music forward. And this is a very special edition because this musician I'm going to interview tonight hails from Durban, South Africa. Linda Sikhakhane has an album that I think everyone should check out. It's titled Isambulu, which is now available on Rope-a-Dope Records. Now, he's connected to his ancestral roots by way of Zulu, in which the role of music in ancestral rites and the legacy of ancestors are both personal and musical. And tonight here on the Pace Report, you're going to see him perform music with his quartet live at the David Rubenstein Atrium here at Lincoln Center. But I had a chance to sit down and break bread with him to talk about his role as a band leader, him coming here to play in America, his role as a band leader, and what he expects his fans from all over the world to expect and experience through his music. But most importantly, we sit down and talk about him coming here to the United States to study at the famed New School, where one of his teachers and mentors was the great Billy Hart. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights. The debut of Mr. Linda Sikhakhane, performing music with his quartet live at the David Rubenstein Atrium here at Lincoln Center, here on the Pace Report, here in New York City. Linda, I appreciate you taking the time out your hectic schedule. This album is Sambulu. It's your third project. Explain to my viewers the concept of this record.
Okay, well, it's an honor to be here, first of all.
Thank you, man.
And yeah, so Isambulo, translated from my native language, Zulu, means revelation. And this album comes at a time where the world was facing so much uncertainty because of the pandemic. And my biggest question was that with all that is happening, how do we find revelation in the midst of, you know, these distortions that were affecting the world? And then I thought that, well, music is so important right now, more than before, because, you know, people are searching for light, people are searching for positivity in this world. And then I just thought that, well, music really needs to come to the fore. And I was just thinking about concepts of revelation. What does it mean? What does revelation mean? And of course, sound becomes very central in my thinking around those notions of revelation.
Being in South Africa, was there a moment when you thought that, okay, maybe I need to put some more thought or put some shedding into my playing or my writing? What were some of the things spiritually that you were doing musically during this particular time?
Well, I guess during this particular time was a moment for reflection and just self introspection, because I guess sometimes when we are exposed to so many things in the world, you know, everything can be so loud. And of course, being isolated was an opportunity to really dig deep within myself and really ask this question: what is my role, you know, in this universe as a musician? And of course, I did a lot of like self introspection, and I also, I guess, to me, I, you know, I came to a realization that there's more to what we do what than what um, than the constructs of an industry, you know, because there was no industry then. It was just me and my horn and the music, and I just feel, and then I just felt a deep sense of um, sort of like being an important figure that could contribute into making this world a better place. So my thinking around music became so deep in such a way that I, I did not even see myself as a musician, but I saw myself as a member of a society that really needs to step in into trying to make this world a better place.
You hail from outside Durban, South Africa, the other side of the world. How did music, especially jazz music, creep into your psyche? I understand that you're Zulu, right?
Yes.
And I know that the spirituality, you're in touch with your ancestors. So music is instinctively African anyway, because you're connected to the ancestors.
Yes.
How does that play into how we're sitting in this room right now?
Okay, well, first of all, when I started playing an instrument, I was young, of course, and I did not pay attention to many things. But now that I've been searching and trying to understand how did I, you know, like what was my point of attraction to jazz, and I realized that music from where I come from has always had this jazz sensibility, you know, and I just saw a lot of like similarities later when I got introduced to jazz. And of course, if you think about South Africa has sort of like this parallelism with the United States when it comes to jazz, because jazz dates back to like the 1920s, and somehow it's music that you cannot escape, especially for a person that grew up in the township, and how jazz played a big role in South Africa as like music for liberation. But besides that, I guess music from my culture made it possible for me to sort of like gravitate towards jazz because of like the similarities, the sensibilities that the music had, you know. And I think it's worth mentioning that I was a part of a program called Siakula Music Center, which is a arts center in Mlazi Township, and my mentor, Dr. Brian Tusi, who's late, was a jazz collector as well, and he's the one that really hipped me to many records in South Africa, like seminal records like Yakalinkomo by Winston Mankunku, and he would juxtapose those records with records from John Coltrane. And so for me, I just saw this special relationship between the music, Zulu music where I come from, the musics of jazz that was created in South Africa and jazz that was created in America.
Name some of the folkloric music of South Africa or Africa that you were, when you came out of the womb, that you were exposed to and that you still listen to this day?
Yeah. Okay. So well, I guess a lot of music. My family comes from a place called KwaNongoma, and it's very like cultural. It's a very cultural countryside, and of course, growing up, I would be exposed to music that was used in certain events. Like coming of age, there would be a ceremony, and there would be songs that were sung. And weddings. Also, when someone is deceased, there are certain songs that were used. So, in terms of like a folkloric music, that is what I was exposed to. But also, there were musics that were recorded, way back, like the sounds of Princess Magogo, who played a very big role in like I guess a sound that is very jazzy, I must say, but it's like ancient music from KwaZulu, which is called amahubo. And you'd find a lot of people now, like one of my mentors, which is brother Nduduzo Makhathini, has been exploring a lot, on that, like juxtaposing amahubo with what we call jazz. So I guess that has been my line of, moving from music that I grew up listening to and being exposed to what I perceive as contemporary jazz music today.
That's interesting, because we're going to go into him in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
In fact, the world saw you through my video piece, my interview with him.
Oh, yeah.
That was last year.
Yes.
There was an interesting thing that I read about you. You completed a competition in Africa where you took the prize money and you decided to study here at the New School in New York City. Explain why you decided to come to the new school as opposed to going to Berkeley or going to Juilliard.
Yeah, well, I just saw that Maestro Billy Harper was part of the faculty, and I was like, I'm definitely going there. And an interesting story is that maybe 3 or 4 years before I went to the new school, Makhathini had been sending me, Maestro Harper's music, and he was like, you need to check this out. And when I got this opportunity, the first person that I actually emailed was Mr. Harper, and just letting him know that I would like to study with him. And of course, there's a brother from South Africa by the name of Lisedi Nzane, who had been studying at the new school, and when he came back to South Africa to visit, Makhathini connected me to him, and he helped me set it up to come to the new school, and then it ended up working out, and I don't regret.
Tell my viewers who were some of your classmates when you came and studied at the new school.
Some of my classmates were wow, so many people. Now I'm just trying to remember. Benny Rubin, a very close friend of mine, an alto player from Detroit. And some of the cast that were around the new school at that time were Joel Ross, Kweku Sambri. We took classes together. So many people. I'm just running out of names. Yeah.
Right. The new school is a big incubator of not just legendary jazz musicians and composers, but also some of the musicians who are out here doing their thing are instructors and teachers there too. It's a great environment. What were some of the most important things that you learned at the new school that you're applying now as a band leader and as a composer?
Well, I guess so many things. One thing that was really interesting to me is an institution that stems from a community. I just felt a strong sense of community at the new school, because starting with a person like Master Harper, for instance, Master Reggie Walkman, Master David Schneider, it was like an opportunity to be in the history of jazz, because somehow these people were contributed into, you know, this important songbook, jazz songbook, and you would hear really important stories because they've been around, you know, in the creation of this music. So that was really important for me. But another thing that I really liked at the new school was that just the flexibility of the program. It really allowed you to be yourself, and it was an opportunity to also meet, like, you know, your kindred spirits and people that you would in the future try and collaborate with in creating music in the world.
And another interesting sidebar, as you were completing your education at the new school, you were also writing, and actually you recorded your debut album, Two Sides, One Mirror, from your recital from the new school, right?
Oh no, so that's actually my sophomore album.
Okay.
Which was, you know, it was my recital at the new school, I guess my last exam, and then I guess it was well recorded and the music was meaningful, I guess, because I wasn't even thinking about it as a recording, but it was just a presentation. And then again, Makhathini pops in, he listens to the whole thing, and he's like, we have an album. And I took the files back to South Africa. We added some elements, you know, percussion, the harp, and some voices, and then boom, it was an album.
you're now trying to make a name for yourself here in America. Nduduzo Makhathini has really, over the last 5 years here in the United States, just really, everyone knows him now, and you playing with him. What have you noticed about the jazz scene here in America, here in New York, as opposed to, you playing with him all over the world, and even in your native Africa? What are some things that you find good, or some of the challenging things that you find as you're trying to build your name here and abroad?
Well, one thing that I've noticed in the United States is that the scene is very organized. It's like everyone is paying attention on what is happening. The fact that there's Mr. Pace who's documenting all of this, it just shows how organized the scene is, because you are quite aware of who's the new, musician on the block, who's doing what, and so that type of organization, I think it's important for every industry, because if music is being created and no one is documenting that, then we are failing. But I guess in the United States, for the longest time, documentation has been so important. That's why, the scene is so rich. That's why this sort of like master-disciple relationship has been so strong, because it's like there's a way of passing on the baton, and I think that's very important.
Musically, playing with American musicians, or I wouldn't say American musicians, because your band you played at Lincoln Center is a hybrid of the Vivas from Cuba.
Yeah,
you have musicians from all over the world. Music is really the universal language, but coming to America, what have you found that has set you apart from some of your contemporaries playing here in America?
I guess one important thing is that diversity of culture, and also just the frequency of New York. New York has just a special frequency of which I can't even explain. There's a master, he's late, back in South Africa, Mr. Begim Seleni. When he recorded his album Timelessness, I think it was around in the 90s, I don't remember, 93 or 94, there's an interview where he speaks about that this album had to be done in New York because New York has such a special energy. And I guess it's because of the history, because, sound has a way of, creating portals that can be accessible, forever. The fact that masters like, Coltrane were around this city, you can feel that energy. That's why the frequency is so high. And all the time when I come to New York and playing with musicians that are in New York, either they're American or not, but the fact that they're here in New York, there's just a special energy. And somehow I think it's important for me to tap into that as well. And it's just the frequency and the level of musicianship is quite interesting.
Name some of the South African or African jazz musicians that you're listening to, or tell my viewers who we should be looking out for as the next that are doing some really important things in Black American music.
Okay. Well, I guess one person that is no stranger to the world is Mr. Nduduzo Makhathini, of course, and we've got so many people that are doing important work and inspired by what Makhathini is doing, because I think he's one person that has created a bridge for our community. We've got people like Carl Shepard, a pianist from Cape Town, Bokani Daya, who's also who's no longer a stranger to the American community. We've got Benjamin Jefta, bass player who studied at Berkeley. We have such a big community, and I feel so bad for mentioning names, because if they were to watch this, they would say, but why Linda did not mention me.
Oh,
you
man.
know, but
it's all love. It's all love.
But it's such a big community of really great musicians. There's a trumpeter by the name of Robin Fassi, you know, from Cape Town as well. A trumpeter by the name of Nduduzo Zulu from Durban, who studied in Norway. So there's just like, it's such a huge community. Nduduzo, a pianist from Pretoria, Zoe Mudicha, a vocalist, Nduduzo Makhathini, a very important figure as well in South Africa, and you know, really important singer and lyricist, songwriter. There's just so many people.
What are some things that you would like to do musically with your unit here and abroad? Are there some musical ideas you want to stretch out, and or are there any musicians here in America that you want to record or collaborate with?
Many, but I won't mention names. But many. But you know, I would love, of course, to not just to record with people, but to be a part of certain, you know, bands as well, because I enjoy being a sideman, and there are musicians that I really admire, and I'd love to be in there. David, for instance, is one of the musicians that I really admire. You know,
he's been doing it for a while.
He's been doing it for a while, and you know, it was really an honor to have him, you know, join the group, because I think it's always important to have an elder to sort of like guide, you know, the process of presenting something.
Linda Sikhakhane, what does Black American music mean to you?
It means so many things. I guess it speaks about movement, displacement, and also it speaks about collective memory. because music is an important tool for people to remember where they come from and to sort of like associate, to align themselves with their ancestry. And I think one thing that I really find fascinating about being in America and being associated with this music is the fact that there's so much that we share. We share like an ancestry line. So I see myself as part of this community in a very deep way, because if we think of how the music traveled from Africa to here and how the music now is trying to find its way back to the continent, and I just feel a strong sense of community and a strong sense of positivity, because somehow the story of the transatlantic has so much somberness in it, but the fact that we've been able to dive into this music, and somehow music now has become a way of healing from all the pain that was experienced through the whole process of dislocating people. And one thing that I've been thinking about lately is that now that we are able to move freely, this whole transatlantic has flipped into like an Atlantic trance, which is a form of healing through music more than anything.
In South Africa, how is jazz music viewed amongst your peers? Is it the people's music, or is it not? Because here in America, jazz music's on the low end of the totem pole culturally. There's hip hop, trill, somewhat R&B, and then there's pop, and then blues and jazz is on the lower end of the totem pole. How is jazz music perceived in your country?
It's definitely people's music. It's just that sometimes we don't have control of the media, I remember this other day a friend, spoke about how black people don't need entertainment, because somehow media has created this illusion that we should expose people to a certain type of genre because people need entertainment, and I think that's an illusion, because what I've experienced in jazz concerts is that people are really moved by something that really hits them deep, in a way that is not even explainable. So I think jazz music is definitely people's music, because I cannot say jazz without saying African music, because that's where jazz stems. So it is definitely people's music.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the House of Swing, Jazz and Lincoln Center, here in the heart of Columbus Circle here in New York City. Guys, make sure you go out and support Linda Sikhakhane's current album, Isambulu, which is now available on Rope-a-Dope Records. For more information on his upcoming tour dates, visit him online at lindasikakhane.com, as well as follow him on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at the David Rubenstein Atrium for their warm hospitality. I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, and leave comments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.